Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Urbana Sustainability Advisory Commission meeting. It's May 7th at 7 p.m. Will staff please call the roll?
Stacy Gloss,
Here.
Dustin Allred,
Here.
Claire Johnson,
Here.
Todd Rusk, Andrew Stowe,
Here.
Morgan White, here, Tess Feivel, Dame Nadine, Scott Tess, Maddie
Here.
Sorry, right here. Maddie Carbaz, Amanda Flores. I think we're good.
Great, thank you. We have a roll. We have a quorum. Let's see. Let's go ahead and look at the minutes from the previous meeting from April 2nd. You all should have received the minutes in your packet prior to today. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from April 2nd?
A motion to approve?
Okay, thank you, Andy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Morgan. All in favor of approving the minutes? Oh, sorry, before I do that. I'm rusty. It's been 2 months. Are there any changes, additions, or errors that need clarification in the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No. Okay, that passes. Thank you. Are there any additions or changes to the meeting agenda this evening? Okay. Do you want to? Okay, so I have one change to the agenda this evening. I believe that Courtney Kwong is unable to make it this evening for the recycling report, so we will reschedule the recycling report for another time. Any questions? Okay. Right, we'll move into public input. Is there any member of the public that would like to address our meeting this evening? Okay. All right, Scott, will you please present the staff report?
Sure. Good evening. First, some updates on Climate Action Plan progress. Solar Urbana-Champaign has selected New Prairie Construction as the vendor for this year's fourth bulk solar purchase program. We're currently scheduling solar power hours, but we've got, I think, 9 or 10 up on the city website already, or on the solarurbanchampaign.com website. We'll be doing some press very soon around that. And we're also working really diligently to recruit and attract low-income households to take advantage of the forthcoming Solar for All incentives. Those are only open for a month, starting mid-May and closing mid-June. So there's not a lot of time to invite people to come to a solar power hour, think about it for a while, then get a site assessment. So we're working to identify interested persons who might qualify for the low-income incentive, get them a site assessment as soon as possible, and fill out all the extra paperwork to qualify for the Solar for All low-income incentive. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get a few applications in there, and there's going to be a lot more applications than there is supply of incentives. So hopefully we'll get a few.
Do you remember off the top of your head the kind of numbers for RECs? I mean, in the Solar Urbana-Champaign program, the RECs are all from one certain, they're almost all from a certain category. All the different blocks have different pricing, but the Solar for All, isn't it like over $100 a rec or something? Do you remember?
It's a completely different model.
Okay.
So Solar for All, distributed generation, low-income incentive, the developer has to deliver no money up front to the household and a 50% savings on the value of the electricity. So it's a pretty good financial case for someone to sign up for that. The problem is there's just not a lot of supply of that incentive. But for those who are able to get it, it's going to be a very nice deal.
And it's still separated by Ameren versus ComEd. So the whole Chicagoland has its own group, or do you know that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Sorry, thanks.
You're welcome.
Just one more question about the Solar for All program. A while back, I had heard or thought that Elevate Energy, based
Correct.
in Chicago, was seeking implementers is maybe not the right term, but basically organizations that could help with outreach in the local community. I'm not sure if, not that I'm not sure, I haven't heard the results of any of the organizations' applications in order to become sort of an educational provider. And it sounds like there's only a very short amount of time to get projects into the pipeline and apply to the Solar for All program. Are you in contact with Elevate or an organization selected by Elevate to do community outreach?
Mhm.
Okay.
My understanding is those grants to do education have not been awarded yet. There is a local group that has applied, and we spoke with some of their staff as recent as yesterday, and they haven't been notified yet. So
Okay, my timing is a little bit off. This is May. The applications are due by when?
it's a window, so it opens, I believe it's May 14th or 15th, and then closes June 14th or 15th, something like that. Yes, it would have been best if those grants would have been awarded some time ago.
Sorry for laughing. It's just, that's where we're at.
It's
Okay.
a big act with a lot
Scott,
of moving parts.
is that a rolling, though, program where there was that first period, and then there are supposed to be additional Solar for All windows or whatever in the future? So it isn't like this was the only chance to get your Solar for All incentives. It was the best and initial chance. And if there's more left over, there's other chances to apply in the future?
I think you're right when you say it's the best initial chance. There is some flexibility in some of the funding with FEJA generally, where there may be more money committed to this, but that's to be seen.
So who should a homeowner or business owner, I believe that a commercial project could apply for Solar for All if they're serving like a majority of like a low-income market in their space?
The low-income distributed generation is for households and nonprofits. How exactly a nonprofit's going to qualify is not clear to me. We're working on developing those rules with our installer, and we're also recruiting nonprofits for the Solar for All incentive, as well as the larger incentives from FEJA. So they may be, viable for either of those.
So to the wide audience that is watching from home, who do they need to contact for more information?
Go to solarurbanachampaign.com and fill out the contact form, and that's really the best way to get on the radar. There's an option in that form to self-identify as potentially low-income qualified, and so that'll route to folks who want to make those connections right away and get that solar site assessment done.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yeah. Is it only single family or is it multifamily?
Multifamily as well.
So my question was, do you think we could have someone come and talk to us just about the Solar for All program in the June meeting, even though there'll only be a week left, but
Yes.
that would be great, I think. Thanks.
Okay. Next, the city's landfill solar project did not win an incentive in the recent incentive lottery. And so we're moving on to the next opportunity, which is the Solar for All low-income community solar application, which will have the same application period, May to June. And that is not a lottery. It is merit-based. I think we have a very meritorious project, but it is a small overall pot of money. So we're making the best, most attractive application we can, and we'll see what happens. Some other energy and climate activities. Staff was looking at, with the Regional Planning Commission, was looking at a grant where we might be able to do some study in terms of the impact on roads and climate pollution from multiple private waste hauling companies, as opposed to what many cities have, which is franchised garbage collection operated by a single private hauler on a contract to the city. Ultimately, the RPC determined that the study wasn't a good fit for that grant, but I think we're all still interested in finding a grant that is a good fit to do that study. Moving on to the water management plan, we are working with the University of Illinois Extension Office folks on a green infrastructure pilot project. They've hired a couple of interns to develop some best practice guides in terms of context-appropriate green infrastructure in right-of-ways. So I'm supporting that project, and I'm interested in how this is going to turn out. And you may recall we're working on a stormwater master plan at Public Works, and so this potentially the timing and the content may be able to inform that process.
Is there a location for those pilot projects?
It's not a physical installation. The notion is there are 2, 3, or 4 typologies of right-of-ways in Urbana. Skinny, super wide, and then a more typical. And we may be able to have some standardized designs for what one could do in those right-of-ways. Moving on, some public engagement for the last month. We had many staff throughout the city participate in Boneyard Creek Community Day at multiple locations. So I think that was a really successful event. Staff spoke at the recent Clean Energy Earth Day Forum, organized by SAC Chair Stacy Kloss. And staff supported the Urbana Bike to Work Day station. U-Cycle had some activity this month. We had multi-family U-Cycle carts that have been on the street for 20 years, and finally we're giving out wear and tear. And so we swapped out several dozen of those, probably 45. With new ones, and that's going to make it a lot faster for the staff to empty them. It's also going to keep water out of them so that we're delivering better materials to our recyclers. The next SAC meeting would be June 4th at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Are there any questions? Okay, I have a few. Going back just most recently, you mentioned the rain barrels that we're getting, not rain barrels, sorry, the U-Cycle bins were getting switched out. And I'm really curious about the sort of life cycle about the bins. What happens to the old bins that are seeing some wear and tear? Where do they go? Do they get recycled or?
In the past, we've been able to get a vendor to chip and recycle those. The bins that we take out of service, the carts we take out of service.
Yeah, in the past. What about this time? Do you know?
Well, we'll see what the price is. If we can get it into the budget, we definitely will do that. That's our ambition.
Do they have any uses beyond getting chipped and then, I guess, recycled with other recycled plastics?
We would want to be careful not to reuse those with the city's logo and branding on it, just from a perspective of keeping our branding for particular uses, namely recycling.
Great. And then my mind was on rain barrels.
Yeah.
How did the rain barrel sale go from this past weekend and the composting event that simultaneously happened the same day?
Yeah, I haven't heard of how the composting event went, but it was, registration was full, and I did see folks come out and do their outdoor activity there while I was at the rain barrel sale. So I'm sure that was well attended and informative. The rain barrel sale initial summary results were 237 rain barrels sold, total sales, not just Urbana. I think a little less than half of those were Urbana sales, and so that's very successful. Every year, I wonder how many we're going to sell because there's only so many downspouts, but still selling hundreds at a time, so that's encouraging.
Is it too soon to tell? Do you think that another rain barrel sale will take place next year?
I think so. I think, selling a couple hundred means there's still pretty good demand, worth the time.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, our guest presenter this evening is Marcus Ricci, that works for the City of Urbana in the Planning Department, and he will be presenting on Bike Month activities.
Good evening, commission members. And thank you all for your fabulous support of Bike to Work Month this May, every May, because it happens every year in May, including Bike to Work Day. The City of Urbana had a station at Busey Bank. There were also other stations hosted by Champaign County RPC out of Brookins, and I think one at Alma Mater on campus, but in Urbana proper. We have one of the better attended Bike to Work stations out of the, I think, 10 or maybe 12 this year that were sponsored. And our registration is up there with U of I. We beat out Champaign, which we usually do. The actual numbers that show up are still being tallied, and it usually takes about a month to figure out the numbers from that. Weather was overcast and very chilly, but not rainy, so that was good. So that event is usually the first of the month. This year, the weather was projected to be fairly rainy, so we pushed it back to Friday, which I understand might actually be a traditional Bike to Work day. But the first Friday always changes date to date, so we've kind of settled on the first day of the month for Bike to Work Day. So Champaign County Bikes, or CU Bike Month, has a website online. You all received a copy of this calendar. The actual event, this homepage here, is the URL at the bottom, which takes you to here. CU Bike to Work Day, there. And then the URL on the top is the actual calendar, which looks like this. And this is kind of a crowd-sourced calendar that other organizations can also add items onto. We've got Bike to school day, which was not shifted. Excuse me, bike to school day is next Wednesday. Bike to work day is up here in its proper place as past Friday. So tomorrow is bike to school day. So if you have a child or you work on campus or at a school, ride your bike to school. We also have Bike to the Market is happening on all the Saturdays throughout Bike Month. That starts at 7:30. This Saturday, we have a Traffic Skills 101 class in the afternoon. There's a little bit information here. You know, you might be a fairly good, fairly experienced bicyclist, but a class like this will teach you things like a quick stop, so that if a rabbit runs out in front of you, you learn how to stop quickly without flipping over your handlebars. You also learn the quick turn, so if a car, you know, right hooks in front of you, you learn how to quickly turn with that car so that you don't run into it or dump into the curb. So there's a lot of good skills here. That class is kind of sponsored and educated by the League of American Bicyclists. Morgan?
And I just want to say that I took that class a few years ago, and I was a little bit nervous because I was taking it with a lot of lifelong cyclists, and you don't have to be a lifelong cyclist. It was a really, really good class, and people in the community, you should I assume you can sign up through this website.
Yes, yeah, and so the cool thing about
It's a really good class.
this crowdsourced calendar is, yes, you can put events in it, but it forces you to, you know, put in the necessary details. Registration here at bikeed.org, where it's happening. This one's happening over at MTD. And then it's also nice because you can copy it to your calendar. So let's see what else is going on in Bike Month. There's the Ride of Silence on the 15th. That kind of commemorates traffic fatalities that have happened that have killed cyclists. A group of cyclists will go out and not really talk, but they will cruise slowly and purposefully through town, educating people about driving safe in interaction with cyclists. There are a few ghost bikes, I believe, in Champaign-Urbana. I know I saw one on Olympian Drive. A ghost bike is a bicycle that's been painted white, and it's kind of a roadside memorial to show that this space was a place where a cyclist was killed on a bicycle. Typically, the Rides of Silence will, you know, incorporate those into their rides when possible. Next weekend, the 17th, 18th, and 19th of May is considered Bike to Worship weekend. So if you worship and you bike, you can bike to your house of worship. There are a lot of, you know, additional groups here in town, like Prairie Cycle Club. They have regular rides. Those are posted on here as well. There's a full moon ice cream ride, so you can ride your bicycle to the Sydney Dairy Barn and be rewarded with some ice cream at the end of it. Another big thing that's happening in May on the 18th, Saturday, 9 o'clock, is the annual Playing It Safe event. This is kind of a bike rodeo for children to learn those traffic safety skills. Consider it like not 101, but 000 for kids to learn, you know, how to check their air, their brakes, their chains, so that they can inspect their bike before they go out. They learn how to fit their helmet. They learn how to start and stop, you know, beginner skills. This is one of the, you know, they have couple hundred kids come through this every year. Now it looks like it's being partially sponsored by Carl Memorial Foundation Hospital. That's happening next Saturday, May 18th from 9 to noon, and you can register here on this website. Let's see. Bike to Worship, Sunset Ride on the Kickapoo Rail Trail. Another big event that one of our planners here, Lily Wilcock, helped sponsor is a Ride with the Mayors. That's happening from 6 to 7:30 on Thursday, the 23rd. The mayors from Champaign and Urbana are going to start Ann Savoy, thank you. Or is it a mayor in Savoy, or is it like a presidency thing? Village president of Savoy. They're going to ride from a not disclosed to me location in Urbana over to Champaign, and then I believe they're going to walk over to Mays for supper. So if you want a nice evening ride, that'll be good. And since you're a city representative, your appearance and participation would always be welcome. It is open to the public, though, so anybody can participate. There's also a critical mass ride on Friday, the 24th. And there's bike movie night coming up at the end of the month, the 29th. The title of the film is Filmed by Bike, and it's happening at the Art Theater at 7 p.m. And I believe, interestingly, we don't have any more details on this yet. Bike from Work Day is kind of a post-work ride your bike to a local restaurant that serves drinks and beverages, and it's kind of a wind down of Bike to Work Month events, usually held and organized by the organizers of these other events. So if you didn't particularly want ice cream, but you wanted coffee or a soda or something else, you can bike from work to this establishment. Keep an eye on this calendar, and more events will be, more details will be shown. There's also, on the last day, it's not actually Bike to Work Month anymore, but it's Kickapoo Rail Trail, ride the KRT on National Trail Day, Saturday, June 1st. And that kind of winds out Bike to Work Month. Are there any questions or comments?
One question. On the CU Bike Month calendar,
Yes.
it says that the website is cubikemonth.weebly.com calendar. Who maintains that calendar?
I believe this is prairiecycleclub.org.
May I?
Please.
So the entire Bike Month has a steering committee with representatives from various groups. It's led primarily by the co-chairs, Champaign County Bikes, Jeff, his last name just escaped me. Yaki. And Regional Planning Commission, Gabe Lewis. And the two of them coordinate what's being put onto that website, that particular calendar. But lots of people have provided input.
And so the nice printed fun calendar that you have is found at the bottom of the page. If you want to print it off, you can click on the download, and that'll give you the PDF. That is a static calendar, so if things get added to it later or changed, we hopefully rely on them to update the PDF, but that's a lot more work than simply going up here and looking at the live calendar.
There's so much going on, and I think this is really impressive. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for the presentation.
Absolutely.
If there was just a way to simply modify the May is Bike Month calendar to say more events at this website, then that might help people know that there are events that have populated the Google Calendar that might not be appearing on the PDF, which
Okay.
is like one of the things I noticed, like the Bike from Work event doesn't appear on here.
Right.
And at least the last time, yeah, anyway, so it's just one
Well, that's a good
small
idea. Add
detail.
live calendar to downloadable calendar.
Yeah.
or
just
live
to say that it might
calendar
be
URL.
changing, right, or, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
I will be riding the KRT Kickapoo Rail Trail ride on the 18th, if anybody would like to join. The short ride to St. Joe, not the
Cool.
one all the way to Kickapoo Rail Trail. And also, fantastic job to those involved with the Bike to Work Day event. I stopped by the research park table and was greeted by Jeff Yaki, so that was very cool. And I'm very excited about doing more bike stuff in the community. Really cool T-shirts this year, good snacks, cool toys. So,
Cool.
very good. Cool
So,
stickers and
Lily Wilcock
reflectors.
has taken over the helm of a lot of the bicycling and other active transportation activities and responsibilities for the city since she came on from campus. She organized the city's Bike to Work station. I also wanted to mention during Bike Month, the city of Urbana is working with the city of Champaign and UIUC campus to update the intergovernmental agreement for the bike share. There might be modifications to that regarding numbers of bicycles for preferred vendors due to the success of the program over the last 6-8 months.
Sometime within the last year and a half, I had heard murmurings about scooters. Is that part of the discussion as well?
I don't think it's
The
part.
scooter share?
I don't think it's part of the intergovernmental agreement revision. There might be discussions in the future about scooters. I will probably defer that to Morgan, since I believe she is the campus representative on the intergovernmental agreement team.
The university's concession agreement currently does not allow electronic scooters through Dockless bike sharing licensing approved vendors. Thank you.
I will mention, aside from that, the vendor's local representative, Ben Thomas, brought one of the electric bikes that have taken on a good chunk of the 500 bikes that they currently have in the region. They've replaced, I think, was it 200 or
I
150?
think it's 150.
150 of the
Pedal bikes.
pedal bikes with electric assist bicycles. They look pretty much like the other bicycles, except there's a little bit chunkier of a section at the bottom where there's a battery.
Wait, here already?
So the
Bicycles.
VeoRide company has a license agreement for the current year, and they're planning to stay, but there could be other ones in the future. But what we have right now is 350 pedal assist bikes and 150 e-bikes, and 0 e-scooters because
Right.
they're not permitted on campus.
Right.
The concerns about the electric scooters are, there's several concerns, but it's about safety, primarily because of the infrastructure, the ground, and our potholes and things like that, plus the speed and the lack of helmet usage. So
And
those are
so
the U of I issues.
Ben brought one of the electric bikes, e-bikes, and one of the scooters over to the city building, and some of the executive staff got a chance to take them out for a spin. They seem to be well received. There are valid concerns out there about safety and infrastructure and all that, so those things will be discussed fully. The commission may be asked for an opinion in the future if they talk about changing things. Similarly, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission will also be involved in the discussion. And the public, I'm sure, will be involved in the discussion. Thank you for your time.
Okay, are there any announcements? No old business? Okay, short meeting this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Claire. Second?
Second?
Great, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 All right, no opposed. That passes. Thanks, everybody, for your time this evening.